Hi people! Today I have finally finished watching the season 1 of Shadow and Bone, the Netflix series. I thought I'd do just a quick video of like reactions or thoughts about the adaptation itself. It's not going to be too much about the story, just as someone that has worked with script for a little bit, and my thoughts on adaptations kind of as a whole. But first, I have something really cool to show you guys. Right, in England we have been allowed to reopen like non-essential business not that long ago. Oh, when was it? I forget now. It was 12th of April. The bookshops have reopened. I obviously went on and ordered the Six of Crows in a collector's edition from my local bookstore, which is the Blue Bear bookshop. So if you're ever in Surrey, just go and check these guys out because they're amazing and they're like really cute. There it is. So this is the collector's edition for the Six of Crows. I have the first book here. It's like red foil embossed in the top, you can see. Oh, it's quite something, isn't it? I'm so happy with them. It's got a few illustrations at the back. I'll try and show you here. So that's for the first one. The second one arrived a bit earlier somehow, but I've got it in here. It's the second tome, which is Crooked Kingdom, in like a gold foil. I'm so chuffed about those. They're so beautiful. And they'll be completing my collection nicely. So there you are. I'll pop them here for this video. I think it's perfectly fitting. So the season 1. How can I start? I think this adaptations, you guys, let's just dive in straight away. This was a good adaptation. In my books, I think it was just really clever. The way the stories were woven together made a lot of sense because we've established a lot of things. Some things didn't make quite as much sense and I just thought sometimes why? But as a whole, I'd say it's really good. I mean, so basically we find ourselves, and this is, by the way, a video that's aimed for people that kind of know the world already. So if you haven't read it and you don't want to be spoiled, skip that video. If you're not interested about the kind of like Grishaverse, skip the video as well because it's going to be boring for you guys. I thought that the series obviously was following the first book of Shadow and Bone pretty bang on. I mean, we got the progression of Alina, Mal and the Darkling. You know, it made a lot of sense. It was quite faithful to the book. Not bits by bits, but I thought it was quite condensed. I think the pace was great because the book felt quite slow and I didn't give them as high a rating as those, simply because I felt that they were a bit slow at times. Some characters needed a bit more tender care. I felt like the job was really well done in those series. Certainly a lot of people loved the character of Mal. He got a lot of care and I think a lot of time was given to him like for growth and everything. So that was good. A little bonus, we always love when the Darkling asks for consent before kissing Alina. I think that was quite a nice little point. However, thought that the Six of Crows making an apparition there was justified and not justified. Obviously we're getting a little backstory-ish of them three, so Kaz, Inej and Jesper together doing their bit, and Nina and Matthias are doing their other bit, and we see their flashback as per the books. So they'll probably regroup in season 2, 3. It wasn't entirely necessary in my books to have them there. I know it was a bit of like fan service. I know everyone was desperate and dying to see them. So obviously putting them in this first season helped a lot, servicing the fans. But I don't know, it felt like, so at some point it felt a bit forced. Their relationship got established, but I feel like a lot of the times the series kind of was doing its bits knowing full well that the audience was aware of the story, and that didn't feel like if you didn't know the story you would be able to fully grasp like what everything meant. So for example, Kaz, as we all know, can't really touch anyone because of like his backstory and something tragic, terrible happening to him in his past. He obviously doesn't touch anyone in the first season. He's really standoffish to the point where Inej will kill someone and she's really distressed, and I think all she wants is a bit of reassurance and probably human contact. But he doesn't give it to her. He just says, look at me, you just saved my life, like you've done great. But he doesn't touch her. And you know, from someone that doesn't know his backstory, which hasn't been like mentioned at all, it's a bit confusing. We just think, why is he not hugging her? There's a sense of like having to understand a character's kind of emotional journey, their personality as well. It's not that it's not okay to not hug someone when they're distressed. Loads of people are just not really comfortable with physical contact. But Kaz, in this sense, has got an explanation to it, more than I don't feel comfortable touching people. His goofiness was quite out of character, which meant that, but he's playful and joking and a bit silly at times, and he does like, you know, he's carrying this goat, and at some point he loses a bit of credibility as this like terribly dark person. He already doesn't have like the gravelly voice that we were hoping for, but hey, having him being quite soft, but at the same time having some character traits of Kaz without explaining them, I thought it was just a bit weird. And is it because we're having this little, you're not meant to see this, the three of crows were meant to pick up Alina and then it didn't happen, and all of this is kind of a storyline that's been added on top? Is it because of that? And then it kind of made me think, was it necessary to have them? Because they do bring comic relief, they do bring a bit of lightness, a lot of people love them, but was it necessary to see them there? Certainly we don't see Nikolai and we don't see Wylan, so could have had them in just their backstory, but then we needed to link them to the Shadow and Bone story. So I think it was a bit of a tricky one. I think if Shadow and Bone was adapted on their own, it would have probably been one of those YAs. It was quite generic, even though it was really well done. The story is very classic, and I think a lot of people could tell the same about the books. But with the Six of Crows, you bring this other dimension of like friendship and the absolute comic relief and the whole heist, and it is just a different kind of story. But this rewriting didn't feel bad at all. It felt very good, but I just was wondering at points, why are you here? Why are you doing all these things? Are you just there to make me laugh? Now I do have to say, it was great to see Jesper. We really grasped his character, even though we don't really know much about him. Inej was pretty good as well, although at times we kind of felt that she was kind of there to be the coolest and she could do everything without having the explanation once again of her backstory. But you know, I think that the dynamic between Alina, the Darkling, and Mal was just really well done. It made a lot of sense, and I was glad to see Alina falling for the Darkling and then her realization, and it just felt really real. It just felt really true. I mean, who hasn't experienced something like this, where they fell in love with someone, idolized them, found them to be this perfect person, realized the mistake, yeah, disappointed and heartbroken. But it really felt like this narcissistic pervert character that she realizes is evil and horrible, and she has this moment of realization, and she doesn't carry on loving him, or there's no ambiguity there. She just freaking despises him at the end of the season. And in the books there were that kind of ambiguity that I think wasn't necessarily necessary. She was just kind of like, oh, but maybe he haunts my dream and he seduces me and all of these things. But I think she kind of registered what happened, and she now has her mind set on, you know, he's my enemy. We both want something similar, but in different means, in different ways. And the way he uses her, she manages to retrieve her power to herself, which I don't think happens in the book. She just pushes him out the skiff, and she's like, you know, that's it. Like, I'm getting control again, and you can F off, basically. And I think that's really good. It shows quite a strong character, where in the book she wasn't necessarily like that or portrayed like that. And the same with Mal. I think he got much more mature in that series rather than the books, and that just was really refreshing. I think that this is exactly where it boils down to. This series obviously was adapted with Leigh Bardugo, which is a tremendous help. She's got the whole world in her head. She knows it by heart. She's lived in it for however many years she's been writing those books. So she is the lore. With someone like Eric Heiserer, I think he's called Heiserer, I never know how to pronounce those names. It feels like they've managed together to fix certain problems and to be able to transcribe the story to screen, but just make it more concise, because as we know, a book and TV being different mediums, you have to select information, and that's probably why a lot of people are frustrated with what's being picked up, not being able to add every character and every little side quest kind of thing. But you just need to be concise. I think in TV that's the main thing. Filming obviously costs a lot of money. I'm not going to get into like massive details, because there's probably a million video out now about, you know, this little bit that happened between Alina and Mal, or the Darkling and Alina, and all of these like funny little bit with the goat. In terms of adaptation, I respect it a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense. The Six of Crows are being introduced rather than being an inherent part of it, in the way that, you know, the show's called Shadow and Bone. I think it has to be accounted for it. It feels very promising. I mean, certainly Eric Heiserer has said that we'll see 100% more Wylan in the next season, if it has green light for the second season, which I'm sure it will be. It's very promising, and I'm very happy about it. So I'm going to carry on reading King of Scars, and after that Rule of Wolves, and I'm going to be waiting for that second season to see what they're going to do about it. So let me know in the comments what you you thought about that series. I really enjoyed it, to be honest. It was great. It's just a shame it was only 8 episodes. But more will definitely follow on the King of Scars trilogy, so bear with me for that one. Thank you for watching this once again, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye bye!